The human walked through the crowded alien marketplace, his boots clicking against the strange stone floor. The air was thick with the smell of spices, smoke, and machinery. Around him, creatures of every shape and color bargained loudly. Some had glowing eyes, others had long tails, and some wore masks that hissed with every breath. He felt out of place, but he had no choice. He was broke, jobless, and far away from Earth. He had come here looking for work. Any kind of work. He told himself he would not stay long, just earn some credits, then move on. But as he moved between stalls, he noticed something unusual. Eyes were following him, not with curiosity but with fear. He could not understand why until he heard a soft voice behind him. "Please, human. Pretend you are with me." He turned, confused. A woman stood there, different from the others. She had silver skin that shimmered under the neon lights. Her dark hair fell over her shoulders, and her large eyes were full of terror. She looked young, fragile, but there was strength hidden in her voice. She reached out and grabbed his arm before he could speak. "Please," she whispered again, her grip trembling. "If they know I am alone, they will take me." The human frowned. "Who will take you?" he asked, but her eyes darted around the crowd. Her fear was real. She pulled him closer, almost pressing against his chest as she whispered, "Just say you are my husband. Please, just for tonight." His mind froze. Was this some kind of scam? Was she trying to trick him? He wanted to pull away, but something about her voice kept him still. Her desperation did not sound like lies. It sounded like a cry for help. The human glanced around and noticed a group of armored figures pushing. Through the crowd, they wore heavy cloaks with symbols on their chests. Their eyes scanned the market like predators. The people around them lowered their heads and moved aside quickly. No one dared to look at them. The woman's fingers dug into his sleeve. "It's them," she whispered, almost too soft to hear. "The enforcers. They take women without mates. They sell them, break them, use them. If you leave me now, I will not survive." The human's heartbeat quickened. He wanted to say no. He wanted to walk away from her and avoid this mess. But her eyes begged him. Her breath shook as she waited for his answer. He had seen fear before. He had seen liars before too. But this was something else. This was real. "All right," he muttered at last. "I'll play along." Her shoulders dropped with relief. She quickly slipped her arm through his, pressing close like they were lovers. She tilted her head toward him, her hair brushing his cheek. To anyone watching, it looked natural, but he could feel her trembling. The enforcers moved closer. Their heavy boots echoed. The crowd grew silent. The human felt every muscle in his body tense. He was not trained for this. He was not a soldier. He was just a man trying to survive. And now he was pretending to be married to a stranger. One of the enforcers stopped in front of them. His mask hissed as he spoke. "You there? Who is this? Woman?" The human opened his mouth, but the woman squeezed his arm sharply. She stepped forward, her voice steady though her hands shook. "I am his wife," she declared. "Do you have a problem with that?" The enforcer tilted his head. His glowing eyes studied them both. The human swallowed hard. He forced a smile, trying to look calm. "Yes," he added. "She's my wife." The enforcer leaned closer. His mask hissed again. The silence was so heavy that even the marketplace seemed to hold its breath. Then slowly the enforcer nodded and moved past them. The others followed, their heavy steps fading into the distance. Only then did the woman exhale. Her grip loosened. She almost collapsed against him. He steadied her without thinking. Her eyes glistened as she looked up at him. "Thank you," she whispered. "I knew you were different. I knew you would help." The human shook his head. "I don't even know your name," he said. "My name is Lyra," she replied softly. Her voice broke for a moment. "And you cannot leave me, not now, not ever, because if you do, they will take me." The human felt a chill run down his spine. He realized this was not over. This was just the beginning. The human could still feel Lyra's hand gripping his arm as they left the marketplace. Her fingers were cold, her touch trembling. The crowd slowly returned to normal after the enforcers passed. But the human noticed something. People were still watching them, whispering in low voices. Some looked at him with pity, others with disbelief. It felt like he had stepped into a game where he did not know the rules. Lyra pulled him into a narrow, side street. Her breath came out shaky. She leaned against the wall, trying to steady herself. For a moment she closed her eyes, and the human saw how exhausted she was, not only from fear, but from carrying this burden for too long. They will not stop, she said quietly. They will keep searching. They always return. They never forget a face. The human frowned. Who are they? They are enforcers of the clan, she whispered. Women without mates are considered property. If no family claims them, the clan sells them to buyers. Some are forced into work, others into worse things. That is my fate if I stand alone. Tucker. Human felt his jaw tighten. He wanted to say he did not care, that her problems were not his, but her eyes stopped him. They were filled with a desperate light, the kind that belonged to someone who had been running for too long. You just need me to act like your husband, right? He asked. Lyra nodded slowly. Yes, but it cannot be just for today. They will test us. They will watch us. If they believe you are only pretending, they will take me anyway. The human's chest tightened. Pretending was one thing, but now it sounded dangerous. He had stumbled into a trap where walking away was no longer simple. Before he could answer, a voice echoed from the end of the street. There they are. The human turned sharply. 3 enforcers stepped out of the shadows, their glowing eyes fixed on Lyra. The leader pointed at her. She belongs to the clan. Show proof this human is her mate, or we take her now. Lyra stiffened. Her hand tightened on his sleeve. The human could feel her pulse racing. He tried to stay calm. I'm her husband, he said firmly. That's all the proof you need. The leader's mask hissed with amusement. Words mean nothing. Prove it. The human froze. What did that mean? How could he prove something like that? He glanced at Lyra. Her face was pale, but her eyes pleaded with him not to break, not to run. Think, he told himself. He had to do something bold. If he hesitated now, everything would be lost. So he stepped forward, wrapping his arm around Lyra, and before she could protest, he kissed her. The street fell silent. Lyra gasped, her body trembling in shock, but she did not push him away. Instead, she closed her eyes for a moment, letting the kiss happen, letting the lie become real. The enforcers tilted their heads, watching closely. When the human pulled back, his voice was steady. She's my wife, touch her, and you'll regret it. For a long moment, the leader said nothing. The air was thick with tension. Then his mask hissed and he gave a sharp laugh. Bold words from a human, he said. We will see if they hold true. The enforcers slowly retreated, but their eyes never left him. One of them muttered, We will be watching you, before they disappeared back into the shadows. The human let out a slow breath. His heart was still racing. Lyra's face was flushed. She touched her lips as if she could not believe what had just happened. You kissed me, she whispered. It worked, didn't it? He replied, trying to sound casual. Her eyes softened for the first time, but her fear returned quickly. This is dangerous. They will not stop. They will test us again, harder than before. You must understand, this is not just pretending anymore. If you walk away now, they will kill me. The human rubbed his face. He had come here looking for work. Not for this. But deep inside he knew the truth. He could not leave her, not when she looked at him with those eyes, not when she clung to him like he was her last hope. Fine, he said at last. I'll stay. Lyra's breath caught. Relief flooded her face, but it was mixed with sorrow. Then you have stepped into the dangerous game of the clan, and once you enter, there is no escape. The human glanced at the shadows where the enforcers had vanished. His fists clenched. He did not know what future awaited him. But one thing was clear. The moment he kissed her, the game had changed. And now, he was part of it. Whether he liked it or not, the human and Lyra walked together under the flickering neon lights of the alien city. The crowd had thinned, but whispers still followed them. Some voices were curious, some doubtful, and some mocking. Everywhere they went, eyes turned to the human and the alien woman clinging to his arm. It was clear that their lie had already spread. Lyra held his arm tightly, her face pale. "They will not stop," she said softly. "The enforcers will test us again. They must be certain that you are my husband." The human frowned. "How do I prove something like that?" She hesitated, her voice barely above a whisper. "In our clan, husbands carry a mark, a bond that shows ownership and loyalty. Without it, they will not believe us." The human stopped walking. "A mark? What kind of mark?" Before she could answer, heavy boots echoed behind them. The human turned and saw them. The same group of enforcers, their masks glowing faintly in the dark. This time they did not come alone. A crowd followed, eager to watch, eager to see if the human would fail. The leader of the enforcers stepped forward, his voice cold and sharp. "We have doubts. Prove she is yours. Show us the bond, or surrender her now." Lyra's breath caught. Her fingers gripped the human's arm like iron. He could feel her trembling. Her life was balanced on his answer. If he failed now, she would be dragged away. The human's mind raced. He had no mark, he had no bond, he was an outsider in this world. Yet the eyes of the crowd pierced him, waiting, doubting. He realized he had only one weapon left. His courage. "I don't need your mark to prove it," he said loudly. His voice carried across the street. "I am her husband, because I stand by her, because I protect her, because I will fight anyone who tries to take her." Gasps spread through the crowd. No one had ever spoken to the enforcers that way. The leader tilted his head, his mask hissing. "Bold words, human. But words are weak. Show us something real." The human looked at Lyra. Her wide eyes glistened with tears. She shook her head slightly, afraid. But he knew hesitation would kill them both, so he stepped closer to her, placing his hand on hers, and raised it for all to see. Then he did something that shocked them all. He pulled a small blade from his belt, a tool he had carried for work. Without hesitation, he cut his palm. Blood dripped down his hand, red and raw. The crowd gasped again. The enforcers froze. The human turned to Lyra, his voice steady. "If a mark is what you want, then let this be our bond." Before she could speak, he pressed his bleeding hand against her silver skin. The blood smeared across her wrist, staining her with his mark. Silence filled the street. Every eye was fixed on them. Lyra trembled, her lips parted in shock. But then something strange happened. Her skin absorbed the blood, glowing faintly. Where his hand had touched, the mark burned bright for a moment before fading into a crimson scar on her wrist. The crowd gasped in awe. Some murmured that fate itself had accepted the bond. The leader's mask hissed again. He leaned closer, studying the mark. "Impossible," he muttered. "A human's blood cannot bind with ours." But there it was, glowing faintly on Lyra's wrist, proof that no one could deny. Lyra looked at him with wide, trembling eyes. You did not know this would happen, did you?" The human shook his head slowly. "No, but now no one can doubt it." The enforcers stepped back, their silence heavy. Finally, the leader said, "Very well. For now, we accept it. But remember, human, you have made enemies this night." The enforcers turned and vanished into the shadows. The crowd slowly scattered, whispering about what they had witnessed. When they were alone again, Lyra clutched her wrist, staring at the glowing scar. Her voice shook. "You should not have done that. The mark, it means more than you think. It is not only a symbol, it is binding. You are tied to me now, by law, by blood." The human stared at his hand, still bleeding. "Then I guess I'm your husband for real." Her eyes filled with tears. Her lips trembled. She wanted to deny it, to say it was only pretend. But the bond on her skin glowed softly. refusing to fade. "You don't understand," she whispered. "By law, you can never leave me now. Not without breaking the mark, and breaking it means death." The human felt the weight of her words settle over him. He had thought this was only a dangerous game, but now it was something else, something far deeper. He was no longer just pretending. He had stepped into her world, and now the bond of blood bound them together. For better or for worse, there was no turning back. The night was quiet when the human and Lyra reached her small home on the edge of the city. The glow of the blood mark on her wrist still shimmered faintly. She kept staring at it as if she could not believe it was real. Her hands trembled as she touched the scar. Inside the house, the walls were bare, the air cold. There was only a single lamp burning in the corner. The human sat down heavily, his cut hand still bleeding. Lyra hurried to bring a cloth and pressed it gently against his palm. Her eyes softened as she whispered, "You should not have done that." He gave a tired laugh. "Well, it worked, didn't it?" Her lips trembled. "You don't understand. That mark is not just a trick, it is sacred. The blood has bound us. The law will see you as my husband now, and the clan will see you as a challenge." The human leaned back, watching her. She looked so fragile under the dim light, yet her eyes carried a storm of fear and strength. He had met many liars in his life, but she was not one of them. She had nothing left but desperation. "Then we play the part," he said finally. "If it keeps them away, I'll do it." Lyra shook her head. "It is not that simple. They will test you again. They will test me. They will search for weakness. If you fail, they will kill you and drag me away." The human's jaw tightened. "Then I won't fail." For a moment, silence filled the room. Lyra looked at him as if she could not believe his words. Her eyes shimmered with something more than fear, something close to hope. She turned away quickly, hiding her face, but her voice betrayed her emotions. "No one has ever stood for me before. Not even my own blood. You are the first." Human said nothing, but inside he felt a strange weight pressing down on him. This was not just about survival anymore. Somehow this had become about her. Suddenly, a heavy knock shook the door. Lyra froze. Her breath hitched. The human stood. Quickly, hand on the small blade at his belt. Another knock followed, louder this time. "Open." A deep voice demanded, "The clan demands proof of your bond." Lyra's face went pale. She whispered quickly, "They will not believe words. You must act. You must show them you will not abandon me." The human clenched his fists. He opened the door. Outside stood 2 enforcers and several neighbors from the district. The leader stepped forward, his glowing mask reflecting the lamplight. "By clan law," the leader hissed, "a new bond must be tested. The woman must show loyalty to the husband must show power over the wife. Fail, and she is ours." Gasps rose from the watching crowd. Lyra trembled, her eyes darting to the human. This was more than a test. It was humiliation, a trap designed to break them. The human stepped closer, his voice steady. "You want proof? Fine. Watch closely." He reached out and took Lyra's hand firmly, pulling her close before the crowd. His voice rose so all could hear. "She is mine, not because I own her, but because she chose me. And I chose her." The enforcer hissed, "Words again, human, show it." The human looked at Lyra. Her eyes shone with tears. She whispered, "They will not believe unless..." Her voice broke, but she nodded faintly, giving silent permission. Without hesitation, the human pulled her against him and kissed her again, longer this time, in front of everyone. The crowd gasped, murmurs spreading. The enforcers froze. For them, this was no act. The bond was clear. When the human pulled away, his voice was hard as steel. "There, is that enough?" For a long moment, the leader said nothing. Then his mask hissed and he growled, "We will be watching you, human. Fail once, and she is ours." The enforcers turned and left, the crowd slowly dispersing with whispers of shock. Inside, Lyra collapsed onto the chair, her hands shaking. "You don't understand what you've done. That kiss, the blood mark, all of it. The clan now sees you as more than a trick. They see you as a rival, They will try to break you, they will try to destroy us. The human sat across from her, his voice calm but firm. Let them try. They will learn that I don't break easily. Lyra looked at him with wide eyes. Her lips trembled as she whispered, You are either very brave or very foolish. He gave a small smile. Maybe both. For a moment, silence stretched between them. Then, for the first time, Lyra smiled. It was faint, fragile, but real. That night, as the city outside fell into uneasy quiet, the human realized something. This was no longer just survival. The bond had already begun to change him, and deep inside, he wondered if the same was happening to her. The human woke at dawn to the sound of footsteps outside. Lyra's house was small, the walls thin, every sound from the street carried inside. He sat up on the simple bedding, his blade still at his side. His instincts told him danger was never far now. Lyra was already awake, sitting by the lamp. Her eyes looked tired, like she had not slept at all. She was staring at her wrist, the glowing mark that now tied them together. Her fingers traced it slowly, almost as if she hoped it would fade, but it never did. The human rubbed his eyes. You're awake early, she turned to him, her voice quiet. I couldn't sleep. The bond changes everything. You must know the truth about me now. If you don't, you won't survive. He frowned. Truth? You mean the enforcers? The clan? Lyra shook her head. More than that, I never told you why they want me so badly. I am not only an unclaimed woman, I am the last daughter of a rival bloodline. My family was destroyed, my clan stripped me of name and power. If they capture me, they will sell me. But first, they will make an example of me. The human's chest tightened. He understood now why she had been so desperate. This was more than fear of loneliness. This was survival against a system built to crush her. Why didn't you run, he asked. Why not escape this world? Her lips curved into a sad smile. Escape? With what? I have no ship, no money, and no one to trust. The moment I step onto a transport, I'll be reported. The clan has eyes everywhere. My only chance was to find someone outside their reach, someone like you. The human leaned forward. So when you grabbed me in the market, it wasn't random, was it? Her eyes glistened. She hesitated before whispering. No, I had seen you before. A stranger, alone, not tied to this world. You looked different. Not cruel, not greedy like the others, I thought. Maybe you would help. I prayed you would. Her words hit him harder than he expected. She had placed her entire fate in his hands without knowing his name. And now, because of one choice. They were bound by blood and law, he sighed. Lyra, you should know. I didn't plan for this. I just came here looking for work. Now I'm in the middle of something bigger than I understand. She nodded slowly. I know. And that is why you must leave. The human blinked. Leave? After everything? Her voice broke as she whispered. If you stay, you'll die. The enforcers won't rest. They will send trials, they will send challenges, and when they can't break me, they will try to break you. I can't let you suffer for me. For a moment, silence filled the small house. The human looked at her, really looked at her. Her silver skin shimmered faintly in the morning light, but her eyes carried the weight of a life of loss. She was ready to give him up to save him, even though it meant her own end. He shook his head. No, I'm not leaving. You said if I go, they'll take you. That's not happening. Her lips trembled. Why? Why would you risk everything for me? The human's voice was firm. Because someone has to. And right now, that someone is me. Tears slid down her cheeks. She covered her face with her hands, whispering, You don't understand what you're saying. To protect me is to fight the whole clan. They are ruthless, they don't forgive, they will destroy you. Then let them try, he said calmly. I've survived worse than men with glowing eyes. Lyra lowered her hands, her eyes wide. In that moment, something changed in her gaze. It wasn't just fear anymore, it was trust, fragile but growing, but their moment was broken by another heavy knock at the door. Both froze. The sound was sharp, commanding, by clan law. A voice declared, "The bond must be tested again. Prepare yourselves." Lyra's breath hitched. She grabbed his arm, whispering, "They won't stop. Not until one of us breaks." The human stood slowly, his hand tightening on the blade at his side. His jaw hardened. He knew this was no longer just pretending, no longer just playing a role. This was war. The human stood at the door, blade in hand. The heavy voice outside repeated its command. "By clan law, the bond must be tested. Open or we will break it down." Lyra's face turned. Pale, she gripped his sleeve, whispering, "Do not fight them now. If you kill an enforcer, the whole city will turn against us. You must endure. You must prove your loyalty in their way." The human took a slow breath and opened the door. Outside, 3 enforcers stood, their glowing masks reflecting the early light. Behind them, more. Neighbors had gathered to watch. Their whispers filled the air, excitement mixed with fear. Everyone loved to see a trial, especially one where a human was foolish enough to challenge the clan. The leader stepped forward, his voice sharp. "Your bond is untested, human. If you are truly her husband, prove it. You must face the trial of loyalty. Refuse, and she is ours." Lyra trembled beside him. Her voice broke. "Please don't make him do this. He is not one of us. This is unfair." The leader hissed. "The law is not kind. The law is not fair. It is absolute." The human looked at Lyra. Her eyes were wet with fear, but he shook his head gently. "I'll do it. Whatever their test is, I'll face it." They led him to the center of the square, where a circle of stone was carved into the ground. The crowd surrounded it quickly, filling every corner. The leader raised his voice. "The trial of loyalty has 3 parts. The first is pain, the second is fear, the third is choice. Fail anyone and the bond is broken. The woman becomes ours." Gasps spread through the crowd. Lyra's lips trembled. She whispered to the human, "No outsider survives this, please. Don't," but the human only smiled faintly. "Guess I'll be the first." The first test began. They brought a heated brand, glowing red from fire. The leader hissed, "A husband must endure pain for his wife. Hold it in your hand without letting go. If you drop it, she is not yours." The human's heart raced. He took the iron rod, the heat biting into his skin. The smell of burning flesh filled the air. His jaw clenched, sweat poured from his brow, but he refused to let go. His hand shook violently, but he stood firm. The crowd murmured in shock when he finally dropped it after long, agonizing minutes. His palm was blackened, his chest heaved, but he was still standing. Lyra's eyes shone with tears. "Why would you do this for me?" she whispered. He forced a grin. "Because they said I couldn't." The second test was fear. The enforcers released a cage, and from it slithered a creature with many legs and glowing fangs. The crowd stepped back in fright. The leader hissed, "Stand still as it climbs your body. If you flinch, if you strike it down, the bond is false." The creature crawled onto the human's leg, its cold body twisting up his torso. Its fangs brushed against his throat. His heart pounded, sweat rolled down his face. Every instinct screamed to swat it away, but he forced himself to stay still. Lyra covered her mouth, trembling. The crowd held its breath. Finally, the creature hissed and dropped back into its cage. The human exhaled sharply. His knees weak but unbent, the leader's mask tilted, his voice low. "Impressive, human. But the last test breaks even the strongest. The trial of choice." 2 enforcers dragged a young alien girl into the circle. She was thin, shaking. Her wrists bound, her large eyes darted in terror. The leader spoke coldly. "Choose, human, save your wife. Or save the girl. You can only claim one. The other will belong to us." The crowd erupted in gasps. Lyra froze, her face pale. "No. This isn't fair," she cried. "This isn't the law. This is cruelty." But the leader ignored her. All eyes turned to the human. His chest heaved, his burned hand throbbed, his heart raced. He looked at Lyra, tears streaming down her cheeks. He looked at the young girl, trembling in fear. Everyone expected him to break, to choose his wife and abandon the child, but the human stepped forward, his voice ringing out, "I choose both. Because I don't follow your laws, I follow my own." The crowd roared in shock. The enforcers froze, never expecting such defiance. The human raised his burned hand, his voice louder. "You said this was about loyalty, then hear me. Loyalty means never abandoning the weak. I will protect her and I will protect Lyra. And if you try to take either, you'll face me." The square fell silent. The enforcers stared, their glowing eyes unreadable. Finally, the leader hissed, "You are a fool, human, but you are also unbroken. For now, the bond stands." The crowd erupted with whispers, some in awe, some in anger. The enforcers turned and left, dragging the girl away despite his words. The human clenched his fists, but Lyra caught his arm, shaking her head. "Not now. You've done enough." When they returned to her house, Lyra bandaged his burned hand with trembling fingers. Her tears fell freely onto his skin. She whispered, "You were supposed to fail. They wanted to break. But you didn't. You stood for me when no one else ever did." The human looked at her, his voice tired but steady. "I told you, I don't break easily." Her lips trembled. She leaned closer, her forehead touching his chest. "Then, maybe you really are my husband." The human wrapped his good hand around her gently. For the first time, he realized this bond was no longer fake. It was becoming real, and that truth scared him more than the enforcers ever could. The days after, the trial of loyalty were tense. The human and Lyra could not walk through the streets without whispers following them. Some voices carried awe, others spoke with anger. The people had never seen a human endure the clan's cruel tests and survive. But survival only made the danger greater. Lyra tried to keep him inside the small house. She feared another attack, but the human refused to hide. "If we hide," he told her, "they'll know they've already won." His burned hand was still healing, yet he carried himself with strength. His presence gave her courage she had never known before. One evening, the silence of the city broke again. Heavy drums echoed in the distance, the call of the clan. Lyra's face went pale. "They've summoned us," she whispered. "This is the final judgment." The human looked at her wrist where the blood mark still glowed faintly. "Then we'll go together." The clan's hall was vast, lit by torches and lined with stone carvings of past rulers. The enforcers stood like statues at the sides, and the crowd filled every corner. At the center sat the High Elder, his eyes cold and sharp. "You have caused disorder, human," the Elder said, his voice deep. "You defied our enforcers. You challenged our law. No outsider has ever done this tonight. We decide if your bond is true, or if both of you must die." Lyra gripped the human's hand tightly. Her eyes glistened. She whispered, "I can't let you die for me. If they demand it, I will break the bond myself." But the human shook his head. "We didn't come this far for you to give up now." The Elder raised his hand. "The bond has one final test. Truth. If you are truly her husband, then speak before us all. What does she mean to you? If your words are false, the mark will fade. If your words are weak, she will be taken." The hall grew silent. All eyes turned to him. The human stood tall, his voice steady. "She means life," he began. His burned hand trembled, but his eyes never left Lyra. "When I met her, I thought she was a stranger, just another face in the market. But then I saw the fear in her eyes, the strength hidden under it. She is not a burden, she is not weak. She is someone who deserves to live free, and I will fight anyone who tries to take that from her." Gasps spread through the hall. The Elder's eyes narrowed, but the mark on Lyra's wrist began to glow brighter. The human stepped closer, his voice rising. "I didn't come here looking for her. I didn't plan this. But now I see the truth. She is mine. Not because law says so, not because of blood, but because I choose her, and I will keep choosing her no matter the cost." Lyra's lips parted, her tears streaming freely. The mark on her wrist flared like fire, filling the hall with crimson light. The crowd gasped. In awe, some fell silent. Others whispered that fate itself had spoken. The elder slammed his staff down. Enough. The bond is real. His voice carried grudging respect. But understand this, human. By standing for her, you have declared yourself against the clan. You are no longer just a stranger. You are her husband, her shield, her rebellion. The crowd erupted. Some shouted in anger, some cheered. The enforcers stepped forward, but the elder raised his hand. Let them go, for now the law protects them. The human wrapped his arm around Lyra, guiding her out of the hall. The whispers of the people followed them into the night. When they returned to her home, silence finally embraced them. Lyra turned to him, her voice trembling. You could have walked away many times. You could have left me to fate. But you stayed, why? The human smiled faintly. Because somewhere along the way, pretending stopped feeling like a lie. Her tears glistened in the dim light. She stepped closer, resting her forehead against his chest. I thought I hired a fake husband. But you became real. His good hand brushed her hair gently, he whispered. Then from this day forward, no matter what comes, you're not alone. Not ever again. For the first time in her life, Lyra felt safe. The mark on her wrist no longer felt like a chain. It felt like hope. And in the quiet of the alien night, with enemies still lurking in the shadows, the bond they had forged in desperation became something unbreakable. Not fake, not pretend. Real. A husband in truth.